The sentence that ended my marriage came on an ordinary Tuesday evening. My wife, Melissa, walked into the living room carrying 2 suitcases and calmly said, "I'm moving in with James." She didn't sound nervous or guilty. In fact, she sounded relieved. After 12 years of marriage, that was all I apparently deserved. One sentence. I stared at her, waiting for her to laugh and admit it was some terrible joke. She didn't. Instead, she folded her arms and looked at me as if she expected me to beg her to stay. For months, our relationship had been falling apart. She spent more time texting than talking to me, worked late almost every night, and smiled whenever James's name came up in conversation. I wanted to believe he was just a co-worker. Standing there in my own living room, I finally understood how wrong I had been. Melissa didn't stop there. She proudly explained that James understood her in ways I never could. According to her, he was more successful, more exciting, and more ambitious. She claimed she had wasted years settling for an ordinary life with me. Every word was delivered with a confidence that made the betrayal hurt even more. Then she looked me straight in the eyes and said, "You'll never find someone like me again." I remained silent. Not because I agreed, but because I realized arguing would accomplish nothing. She had already rewritten our entire marriage in her mind. In her version of the story, I was the obstacle standing between her and the life she believed she deserved. Before leaving, Melissa walked through the house collecting designer handbags, expensive jewelry, and anything she believed belonged to her. She barely glanced at our wedding photos hanging on the walls. Years of memories meant nothing compared to the future she imagined with James. As she rolled her suitcases toward the front door, she paused and smiled. "Don't wait for me," she said. "I'm not coming back." Then she climbed into James's luxury SUV parked outside and drove away without looking back. The house became painfully quiet. I stood alone in the doorway wondering how 12 years could disappear in less than 15 minutes. The following weeks were difficult. Social media quickly filled with photos of Melissa and James enjoying expensive restaurants, rooftop parties, and weekend vacations. Friends forwarded me screenshots I never asked to see. In every picture, Melissa looked happier than I'd seen her in years. It genuinely appeared as though she had traded an ordinary marriage for the exciting life she'd always wanted. Meanwhile, I focused on rebuilding my own routine. I returned to the gym, spent more time with family, and buried myself in work. Every day hurt a little less than the one before. Slowly, I began accepting that some endings are necessary even when they aren't your choice. About 4 months later, I heard surprising news through a mutual friend. James's company had launched an internal investigation into financial misconduct involving several senior employees. At first, I ignored the rumors. It wasn't my business anymore. But over the next few weeks, more information surfaced. James wasn't simply being questioned. He had been suspended while the company reviewed evidence related to fraudulent expense reports and unauthorized transactions. Suddenly, the glamorous lifestyle Melissa had proudly displayed online started disappearing. The luxury dinners became less frequent. The vacations stopped completely. Something behind the scenes had clearly changed. Then reality hit even harder. James lost his job. Without his executive salary, maintaining the expensive apartment and luxury lifestyle became impossible. Bills began piling up almost immediately. Friends who once filled their weekends slowly disappeared. Invitations stopped arriving. The people who had celebrated their relationship were nowhere to be found. According to mutual acquaintances, arguments became an almost daily occurrence. The confidence Melissa displayed when she walked out of our house slowly gave way to frustration, stress, and regret. The fantasy she had chased was beginning to collapse under the weight of ordinary life. One evening, nearly a year after she left, my phone rang. It was Melissa. I almost didn't answer. When I finally did, I barely recognized her voice. The confidence was gone. She sounded exhausted. After a long silence, she apologized. She admitted that leaving our marriage had been the biggest mistake of her life. She confessed that James wasn't the man she believed him to be. The exciting future she imagined never existed. Instead, she found herself trapped in a relationship built on excitement rather than trust. Hearing those words was strangely emotional. Months earlier, I had dreamed of receiving that apology. Now it felt like it belonged to someone else's story. Melissa asked if we could meet for coffee. After thinking about it for several days, I agreed. When she walked into the cafe, I hardly recognized her. She looked older, tired, and weighed down by stress. As we talked, she admitted she had mistaken attention for love and excitement for stability. She told me she missed the quiet evenings at home, the honesty we once shared, and the life she had dismissed as boring. She even admitted that when she left, she genuinely believed I would spend years trying to win her back. Instead, I had quietly rebuilt my life without her. Toward the end of our conversation, Melissa looked at me with tears in her eyes and asked the question I had expected from the moment she called: "Is there any chance we could start over?" I looked at her for several seconds before answering honestly. No, it wasn't said with anger. It wasn't revenge. It was acceptance. Some things can be repaired. Others cannot. Trust, once shattered repeatedly, rarely returns in the same form. She nodded slowly. Deep down, I think she already knew the answer before asking. We finished our coffee in silence before standing up and walking in opposite directions. Looking back, Melissa believed moving in with James would destroy my life. She thought I would fall apart while she built the future of her dreams. Instead, the opposite happened. I learned to respect myself, rebuild my confidence, and create a life that no longer depended on someone else's choices. Melissa's downfall wasn't caused by karma or revenge. It was caused by her own decisions. She traded loyalty for excitement, stability for fantasy, and trust for temporary attention. By the time she realized what she had lost, the door she had walked through was already closed. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't making someone suffer. It's refusing to let their betrayal define the rest of your life.